think we do need to talk about the fact that the Packers might be in the market to get a second weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Now, they have other needs that they need to fill, but I'm sure receiver is one of those things they're going to be looking at. So when you look at the end of the first round, what are the kind of names that you think would be the perfect fit for the Packers?
Man, it depends on what route the Packers want to go, right? I mean, it seems like in recent years, especially that one year, what was it, 2018, where they drafted 3 receivers and they were like all the same kind of built, right? Like slim, long, you know, guys that run very well, those type of receivers. And it was, you know, Valdez-Scantling, St. Brown, and Moore, right? Like they just drafted 3 guys and they were very similar. So I think a lot of people just looked at the Packers and they're like, that's the type of guy they're going to draft again. If they do, then we're looking at a guy more like Terrace Marshall at the end of the first round, who I think is a terrific receiver. I really like Diami Brown. Now, he's not as tall as the other guys. He's like 6 foot, 6'1", 190 pounds, but he's one of my favorite receivers in this class. And he really, I mean, my comp, I did a video of him on my Patreon account, and my comp for him was Devontae Adams. I think that's who he plays like. That's how, you know, he has those type of subtleties to his game and that type of ability. So, you know, now if they want to go a different route and they want to get more of a guy that they can move around and do little different things with him, but still a speedster, then you're talking about maybe a guy like Rondale Moore, who would probably be available, you know, at the end of the first round, where he has the big time ability. I think he plays the way he plays, he's like a true slot. You know, he's not maybe not somebody that you're going to just line up too much on the outside because he's only 5'7". And when you're 5'7", which if he's going to play on the outside and be 5'7", he's on the right team because there's Aaron Rodgers, who has like pinpoint accuracy. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, say in a year there's no Aaron Rodgers and you have Jordan Love there, you know, you're gonna need that quarterback to have like pinpoint accuracy, right? So him being smaller though, I think he's a terrific slot receiver. I think he runs good routes. I think he has nice suddenness. I think he is a true receiver that just has the ability to do those other things with the, you know, the jet sweeps and, you know, those type of things, just get the ball in his hands, line up in the backfield, which we've seen a lot of that become more and more popular with, like, you know, Debo Samuel, which, I mean, they were doing it before Debo. They were doing it with, hell, Jerry Rice did it. Jerry Rice took a lot of end arounds for touchdowns. And then there was like Marvin Harrison. I mean, not Marvin Harrison, excuse me, the guy from Percy Harvin, that type of guy. And I could see Rondale Moore filling that type of role as well. So those are kind of 3 guys that I really like in that area that I feel like can really help the Packers. That's Terrace Marshall, Diami Brown, and Rondale Moore.
Blake, who would you like your team to draft?
So there's a lot of all those guys I've looked at. I like a lot of them. I think the guy that would be the best fit for the Packers would be Diami Brown out of North Carolina. I think his explosiveness is exactly what the Packers need. On those go routes, he can just, you know, beat the guy off the line and create a lot of separation that way. And a vertical threat is kind of what the Packers are missing, I think. I think underneath and intermediate, Devontae Adams is really good, and he's obviously really good deep too, but maybe not like the fastest of the fastest guys explosive-wise, and I think Diami Brown could potentially be that. And he's also really good at slants too, and if you guys remember the Packers early 2010s, they would just line up 4 receivers and throw slants to Jordy, Greg Jennings, James Jones, all those guys. So I think he could, you know, if they wanted to do something like that, he would fit in there really well. So I'd say Diami Brown, but a lot of the guys seem like really good fits, to be honest.
Yeah, for me also, Croc, I'm with you. Diami Brown is a monster. Diami Brown is really, really good. I don't know, like, I think the end of the first round, early second round is right there for him, but I think he's so explosive off the line of scrimmage. I can see why you comped him to Devontae Adams. I don't know if it's the number 2, but for whatever reason, in his uniform and how explosive he is, he looks like Brandon Ayuk did a little bit last year to me. I think it's just the number 2, but I think there is a little bit of that. But I think one of the most underrated things that surprised me about Diami Brown was he's actually quite good at making contested catches. And I didn't expect that because he's not a really huge framed guy, and he is actually quite lighter, but he really goes up fights. He has good hands in traffic. So I think he would be awesome for the Packers, especially because if you look at who they drafted, right, you talk about their history before the Valdez-Scantling and Equanimeous St. Brown picks, it felt like the Packers' go-to with receivers were guys that get off the line of scrimmage and create separation immediately. That's who Greg Jennings was. That's who Jordy Nelson was. That's who Randall Cobb was. That's who Devontae Adams was. And for whatever reason, they got away from that with Equanimeous St. Brown and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I think Dimey Brown would lead them right back to that route of receiver. And then the other guy, you went with Rondale Moore. I don't know how you feel about this guy, but this is my favorite player in the draft, actually, and that's Kadarius Toney. And to me, the Packers draft Kadarius Toney if they're just looking to bring an explosive element to their offense, the way the Niners use Deebo Samuel, where it's full on just having I think he has enough agility to win from the slot and be a little bit like how Randall Cobb was for them a few years ago. But in terms of jet sweeps, end arounds, all that kind of stuff, get the ball in his hands. He's so good at making people miss. He's so agile. He's so fast. I think he's way stronger than he's given credit for. I've seen the Deebo comp. I think his body type isn't like Deebo, but I think he runs as hard as Deebo. I don't think he moves as smoothly as Percy Harvin, even though he's a really, really, really fluid athlete. But that would be the other guy for me that I would say the Packers should target.
And, I haven't watched him yet. And you guys know, I break down a ton of guys. And those breakdowns take some time, sometimes between watching film, cutting it up, putting it together, and getting it out there. So I will get to Toney. Maybe I'll get to him tonight, where there's a few guys I want to do this weekend, especially like receivers. So I'll try to get into him so I have, more to talk about with him.